We've been working with air prune boxes as a method to grow trees from seed for a number of years. We've documented quite a bit. These are some basic design modules, I guess, that we've been working with in a pretty solid way for a few years, 2 feet by 4 feet with little risers. We've talked about this extensively in other videos. I will link here to some other videos that talk about that. But what I wanted to mention or deal with in this video is a specific idea of managing weeds and how to keep up with it without using chemicals, without using plastic, tillage, or even mowing. So in this video, I'm going to talk about how we got this to be a relatively clean and weed-free area around these boxes and otherwise a lawn in just about a half hour of work and very little cost. Yesterday, this area looked like this before we got started, where the lawn had been unmowed in between the boxes. When we laid these out, we could have put plastic down, we could have put a ton of cardboard and wood chips, but I've learned over the years how to not worry about that and just simply use mulch as a way to remove vegetation. And so I documented the whole process, which I'll show step by step of how we got to this from there. But we've used basically entirely just a local round bale. And I'll talk about that in a bit. And still a ton of it left over, so we can do the same treatment in some other areas. This was without any tools, didn't even use a knife to open the round bale, and would be the kind of labor that would be really comfortable for a very wide range of bodies. Folks that have limited mobility, younger people that are just getting into it, folks that aren't comfortable working with tools. Very accessible way to erase lawn in the spirit of growing things. So let me dig into how I went about that. Stick around for that part if it'd be interesting. This is the before, and the air prune boxes are doing just fine, but the grasses, I mean, they're not really getting up and into the boxes, they're not causing a threat, but it would be a little bit tidier, quite nicer to have them knocked back, a little less tick pressure. Certainly I need to go through and weed all the air prune boxes. Here's one that was finished, but they all need some work, and that's the beginning. Bit of extra effort, but rolling the round bale back and forth allowed me to take this netting off without cutting it, which means I should be able to roll this up and use it at some point in the future to make a little chicken exclusion thing. Maybe we're planting out some greens in the chicken yard and we can use this to keep them off it for a bit. It's kind of nice to be able to repurpose that. We're working with round bale in this particular case because we found someone local, about 10-15 minutes away, who has unsprayed hay, round bales. These are 25 a piece, which is a little bit more than we normally pay, but it's very, very nice quality hay. They also use a bale chopper throughout, which I had never experienced before, but it makes flaking this material quite nice. But this could be a round bale of unsprayed straw, it could be a whole pile of leaf bags, it could be a mountain of wood chips, it could be a mountain of sawdust. Use your imagination. What can you find where you are for free or for low price? I might just start with that first bed in the corner, since that one's already been weeded, and go through and get that pinned down. Now, the key with this is to not go through and mow it really tight first or to pull weeds. It really is about simply taking all the vegetation and laying it flat, pinning it away from the things you want to mulch up against. So I'll get this all pinned down both towards the center and then get hay on top. So they're pulled away from the box, they're folded onto themselves. I even rolled it over just a little bit. The taller the vegetation, the easier it is to do this, believe it or not. So tightly mowed, it's actually not as effective as just letting it grow for a while. But this is ready for some hay. Pretty straightforward. I just grab a little bit at a time. My first pass, I'm not necessarily going for 1,000,000% coverage. It's really just to kind of commit to being pinned down what I've started. I just want to get a rough sketch of the whole area, and then we'll go for the deep layering in a bit. This is probably about a total of 3 minutes, really light effort with no tools, and it's already starting to go in a nicer direction. The mulching in between the beds is done enough. That was a total of about 20 minutes of light, gentle work without tools, and should be good enough for now. We'll reserve some of the bale so we can touch it up later. This first pass consumed maybe a quarter of this bale at most, maybe a fifth of the bale, somewhere around $5 or $6 worth of hay to get this first pass. And it's very, very important to be very clear here. I'm not suggesting that since we put this mulch down, it's now weeded for the entire season. There will be weeds that pop up, but that's why we're reserving this mulch nearby. We'll have a nice pile right over there. Maybe it'll be wood chips, maybe it'll be leaves if that's what it needs to be. But hay is what we have here, so we'll conserve it. And this will be something we do maybe once or twice more. We pin down weeds after a good rain. But imagine if we didn't do this and we said instead we're going to manage it by mowing. Well, we'd have to mow through there every week to 10 days for the entire season guaranteed, and almost certainly use a weed whacker twice a month to keep it looking like a lawn. So I'd rather put in 20 minutes and $6 and then another 20 minutes and $6 later on and get permanent lawn erasure that we can expand the garden into later. Now we're going through and just giving the first real deep soaking of the season and getting all the weeds out. And oh, well, that's a good test. So we had a really intense freeze and a lot of them were damaged. It's good to pull one and just see. It looks like it's still green and alive down below. I'm hopeful that these might be able to send up a new shoot, but we may have lost a fair number to that freeze out of nowhere. But we certainly are not going to pull them all and get rid of them. We'll just let them maybe grow, maybe not. If there's real serious gaps in the bed because of that, we can always open this up again and sow in some carrots or beets if there's some dead patches. But lots of little ones these are all chestnuts. And the ones that were coming up a little late, maybe they were planted a little deeper. They missed that freeze. I think we'll be pleasantly surprised with how many actually show up in here by the end of the season. It's subtle, but here's another one that just got pulled up that is showing. It's hard to see here in the light. There's that little nibbin. That's the technical term for the regrowth. It looks as though these ones that got apparently slaughtered by a surprising freeze are generating new growth from below. It's such a common picture with trees. They'll get hit hard and they'll seem dead, and then they recoup and either sprout from the ground or from a lower point. Good reminder that deeper mulch in here, deeper planting, better insulation overall would help both from overheating but also these wild cold nights that happen once in a while. This bed was very filled with weeds, and so it shows really important to pair the deep hydration work with the weeding work. It both lubricates the roots so that the weeds come out, and it also is less likely to damage the roots of the trees you care about or the plants you care about. So it's like doing both of those at once. Maybe one hand is watering, one is weeding, or one of us is watering, the other person's focusing on weeding wherever their hands are. And what we noticed in this bed, there were a couple really huge radishes right over where I'm watering now. And those radishes were large enough that they actually shielded these chestnuts from that freeze. The rest of the bed would look exactly like this. It would be nearly closed canopy of chestnuts if it weren't for just that one night. And it's a good reminder that this sort of weediness early in the season isn't exactly devastating by any stretch. It's just something to be aware of and to wait for late frosts or droughts and things to pass before you do your first weeding and pair it with watering.